What's going on, everybody? This is Al from PlaybookGamer.com, and today we're going to look at the ACE playbook in NCAA Football 06. This video is going to break down a custom playbook. I've used this offense a few times over the years. The recent one that you may have seen me use it was in my Yale Dynasty. I've used it a couple other times way back in the day. And this is just a very fun offense. It's very versatile, very flexible in terms of your personnel and the type of schemes you want to run, but it gives it a bit of a theme to go along with that. So before we get into the playbook, I want to mention a few things. First of all, this is a custom playbook. I put these formations together. This is not a team playbook. If you do not know how to put a custom playbook together, I will have a link in the description below to show you how to do that. Also, I am covering default plays. This is not my master playbook update that you see me use in my newer dynasties. This is default plays, which means anybody has access to this. If you play on the console, you play on the emulator, anybody can run this scheme to a T. And last but not least is I have created a call sheet for this playbook. These are the plays that I think you really need to pay attention to. These are the really good ones. And I have it broken down more or less by concept, but there are four main columns to this call sheet. You got your formations column that gives you all the formations in the playbook. I have all the formations broken down by personnel, and I have them broken down by alignment, 2x2, 3x1, things of that sort. Then I got a run column. I got it broken down by concept, dive, slam, draw. Then I got a pass column where I got it again broken down by concept, but play action, quick and short, full field, long. And then I have a situational column that is blank. That's up to you, kind of how you want to go about using this, because in the link in the description below, I will have a link to this file for you to download, copy, use it however you wish. I just wanted to give you kind of a base to work from. And I also have two sheets. This is the one that's filled out versus ACE offense. And then I got a blank one if you ever need it for something else. So again, make sure you check that out in the description below. So what we're going to do in this video is I'm going to go over all the plays. I'll give you like my yay or nay opinions on them. We're going to rep a few plays along the way. And hopefully by the end of the video, you'll have a clear idea of how to go about using this particular playbook. All right, let's get started. The first formation in our playbook is ace big tight end wide receiver. This is a 12 personnel formation, 12 meaning one running back and two tight ends. And the sub packages in this formation is pretty simple, nothing too crazy. You can flip tight ends and receivers and put in subs and such. But I do want to point out one particular sub package, and that is the fullback tight end sub package. All it does is put your number one fullback here at the number two tight end spot. And the reason I bring that up is because this playbook is nothing but ace formations. So you do not need a fullback in this offense whatsoever. But I did want to point that out because the game forces you to have one fullback on your roster at all times. And you still may find one that could be useful there. And you can use this sub package at any time. So let's just go through all the plays and I'll just kind of give you my thoughts. First of all, halfback dive. This is the most basic run concept in all of football. You just run up the middle. You try to go between, your center and the guard. Just do not abuse the speed button. That's always the number one rule when running the ball in this game, is just don't abuse the speed button, find a hole and just kind of move on. Now you can flip the play left or right if you need to. Just run away from the defensive line shift and their impact players. But otherwise, you need to put this in the scheme. It's just too basic and simple and just a great way to attack up the middle. PA seam, we're not going to cover this one. It's not a very good play action play. It's very slow developing. The route combinations are okay, but I'm not a big fan of it. I suggest you just skip it altogether. Counter tight end trap, I suggest you ignore it. Pretty much any counter play in this game. There are some that are okay. The biggest problem is a lot of the pulling lineman plays aren't all that great. So you see you got a pulling guard going to the left. It's cool you got a tight end pulling with you. That's neat. But these are just kind of slow developing plays and the blocking isn't all that good. So for this particular scheme and on my call sheet, it's not on there, so you don't have to worry about it. Next up, counter trap. Again, it's just another counter play where you got a pulling lineman. I would ignore it. Now, tight end read is a pretty good play. I suggest you practice this one. This is a right hash play because it is a short side zone beater on the right side with this tight end going out to the right on an out route. So on the right hash, you can go to him, but against man, all four of these routes are really good. The halfback you can ignore, but this is just a good little short / quick concept. You can attack the middle with a little dig, and you can attack 10 yards in effectively on the outside as well with your little pivot and your out route. I highly suggest you include this in your offense, especially if you got two decent tight ends. Halfback draws under center are pretty good in this game. They're really no different than the dive. They take a little bit longer to develop, but they complement your drop back passing game really well. I suggest you include it, especially if you're going to do a lot of drop back passing in this offense. And we're going to cover a lot of drop back pass plays in this video. Moving on, halfback slam. This is going to be your most common run play you'll probably call in this offense. It's my favorite run concept in the game. It attacks up the middle. It can attack outside. It does a really good job of attacking any hole that you can find. It's just got enough flexibility, and of course you can flip it. I highly suggest you make this your base run concept for sure. And then thankfully it is in pretty much all the formations in this playbook. PE tight end choice, I want to talk about this one especially. This is probably your best play action play in this formation. Now this is a right hash play as is because we got a short side zone beater. So what I want to show you in particular is how it attacks cover 2 zone really well. So we're going to select that. Let's go against cover 2 zone. We're going to come over here, and against cover 2 zone, what you want to look for is as soon as you snap the ball, if you see these two safeties go high, which is a cover 2 zone, they split the field, we're going to try to throw this guy as hard as possible, this go route, about right here. Let's see if we can pull that off. I'm going to snap it. I'm going to hold down the button, and we're going to have that. Now, he didn't even attempt to make a catch, but you saw how open he was. This is just a great killer play if you can execute it properly. Notice how it's just really hard for that safety to get over there in time. Some safeties can do that. It just really depends on how good your throw is. But what's really cool about this play is you can attack either safety. This safety over here, we just attacked. So if he's awful, you can keep that receiver over there. But if you bring this receiver over in motion, you can really attack this free safety. So let's pretend that free safety is terrible. If you bring him over here with a motion, then you want to go to that corner route on the left to attack cover 2. So when you snap the ball, put a little English on your joystick, and you can do something like this and really do some damage there. So let's try that again. Let's see if I can make this look halfway decent. Come over here, snap the ball, cover 2, and you can do something like this. Look how wide open he is. Just a killer play. I just love the versatility of the play. But beyond that, you got to cover 0 beater against man, cover 1, and against zone, you always have your safety valve with that flat route with your tight end. So I just wanted to point out that particular play. It is incredible. Next up, we got a halfback option. This is going to be your most popular outside run concept. Yes, this is an option play, but this offense is really meant to be very flexible in what you could run. This is not ridden by having a pocket passer only. You can have a dual threat guy in this offense, and halfback option will be really key. But another cool thing with halfback option is you could treat it as a toss play. Now, the toss plays in this game are not very good, but halfback option is a really good toss play. So in this particular roster that we're using now, I'm using Washington State, I got a pocket passer. He's very slow. So what I can do is just treat it as a toss play. So I'm going to run to the left. I'm going to hit triangle on the left so we can go to the left. And as soon as I get past this tackle, I'm just going to pitch it. And now I got all this room to run. Now, it's not going to be guaranteed all the time like that, but it's just a great alternative to that toss play. So I'm going to try this again. And just like that, just a basic toss. And we may have a chance to score a touchdown right here. Just a great little concept. But if you got a quarterback that can really run the ball, then treat it like an option. In this case, my quarterback, he's just too slow. He can't handle it. But you can always substitute that by just treating it as a toss play as best you can and pick up whatever yards you can. But again, this is going to be your main outside run play in this scheme, especially from a pitching standpoint. And thankfully, this concept is in pretty much all of the formations in the playbook. Next up, we got option weak. Now, option weak is technically speed option. This is the other option concept in this offense. Now, I'm going to go ahead and show you. I'm going to go and put in my backup quarterback. He's got a little bit better speed, just 68, nothing special. But I do want to just point out with option weak, when it comes to speed option, it's just very quick. So you got to go over to, we're going to run to the left. It's just super quick. Like, you got to be real quick with your decision making. But if you can do it, and if you got a quarterback that can really move, you can do some serious damage with it. So I just wanted to point that out, that it is an actual speed option play. Flanker quick screen. This is one of the few decent screenplays in this playbook. Under center screens are very hard to convert because you're under center. But this is a right hash play because of that screen. You want that to the short side of the field. I highly recommend you use this if you want to include a screen game in your offense. I would ignore halfback read. The zone blocking is terrible. It's just not very good. I've updated that in my master update playbook file. But if you got the default playbook and you're going to use this offense to a T, I would just ignore it. You don't need it. It's really no different than halfback slam, but slam just has better blocking. Next up, we got PA rollout. I'm a big fan of any PA rollout that has the actual rollout play action movement, but I'm not a big fan of some of these route combinations, so I would just ignore it. PA tight end choice is a better option for you anyways, which has the same movement. Notice it's that same PA rollout movement. So you can ignore this one and just use PA tight end choice. Halfback blast, it's really no different than slam. The developers kind of goofed up on this play. They didn't need to include it because you already got slam, so I would ignore it. Tight end angle is a really good one because it's versatile on either hash. It works on either hash because you got two short side zone beaters. So if you're on the right hash, this little delayed route is perfect on the right hash as a safety or a zone beater. Then you got some other good combinations as well, but you can also play it on the left hash, and your flat route by your halfback can do just as well. But you got a post that's very versatile. The flag route, the little double post or double flag move is pretty good. And you got an angle route over the middle, which is good against zone. So like against man, you just read the safeties. If they come down, go to the post. Otherwise, just go to like the delay route if you're on the right hash. But if it's against zone, look for the angle route over the middle. Look for the post if, you got time to throw it, but otherwise just go to your delayed route. It's just a good combination of routes, good spacing, and I'm a big fan of it. Next up, we got tight end corner. I'm not a big fan of it. The little whip route on the right is a decent short side zone beater, but these other routes just aren't my cup of tea, so I would ignore it altogether. Remember what I mentioned about the toss plays in this game? They don't work very well. A lot of it's just a pulling lineman. And also this concept, the reason why it really doesn't work is because as soon as you pitch it, these linebackers just really dart towards the running back, and you really don't have much of a chance unless you got incredible blocking. Just ignore it. You got halfback option that'll get you where you want to go. Next up, curl flat. This is your best drop back pass play in this formation. At least it's one of my favorites because it attacks the short area of the field so well. This is on my quick short section of my call sheet. It's right hash play because of this little flat route. Against man, you got the post over the top if it's cover zero. Otherwise, you can go to the out or the curl. You can even go to the angle if your halfback's dynamic enough and he's going up against a slow halfback or a linebacker. But against zone, you got your center beater with the angle. Otherwise, you can go to the flat, and even sometimes you can go to the curl. Just very versatile. You can do so many things with it. It just attacks man and zone very well, especially 10 yards in. And that is it for this formation. Next up, we got Ace Big Twins. This is the sister formation to Ace Big Tight End Wide Receiver. You're just moving your Z receiver over here. It doesn't have any truly special plays or sub packages in it, but let's go through some of the plays. Post cross, I think it's a pretty decent play. It's a rollout play to the left side. I want to point this out because it's good against cover 2 zone. So we're going to go ahead and select this. We'll go against cover 2 zone. And that scissors concept on the left, if you can just roll out, if you got enough time and you can hit this guy right here, just a big play right there. Big time potential, but that's only against cover 2 zone. The rest of it, you can hit the post against cover 0 or even the flag. You got a good angle route that's good against man or zone, and you got this delay route that's good against man or zone. So you got several routes that work against a lot of different things. Now this halfback is kind of useless. His route isn't all that great if you're on the right hash. And again, this play just works better from the right hash, but I highly recommend you practice that one. Counter trap, we've talked about it. Ignore that. Tight end drag, it's okay. I'm not a big fan of the route spacing and the combination of things, so I don't think you need to use that all that often. Halfback slam, excellent. PA rollout, this one is okay. You're going to have to maybe hot route that post to a go, but otherwise this is a right hash play where it's really designed to give it to your number one tight end. So if you got a really stud tight end, you may want to include this. I have this on my call sheet. This is the best play action play in this formation outside of one we're about to see here in a minute. Halfback read, again, just ignore it. Halfback option, definitely use it. Ace arrow, this is another good quick concept play. Just throw to your arrow. This is a right hash play because of the flat route. Go to your arrow against man, or this little route right here. This doesn't look like much, but this is actually a fade route. If it goes cover zero, those safeties come down, go over the top to him, you can get a good gain. Otherwise, just go to the arrow. Now, against zone, you can still kind of hit the arrow. Otherwise, just go to your flat. This flag route is really meant just to distract defenders to get your flat route open. Otherwise, a really good play. Now, triple wide receiver option. This is the only non-flex bone triple option play in the game that includes your wide receiver. I may have forgotten one, but this is triple option. But if you got a decent receiver that's fast enough, I would definitely include this in your offense if you just want to change things up and get a wide receiver going in your run game. About the easiest way to use this one is to just hand the ball off to the halfback if it's zone and go man by keeping it with your quarterback and, running basic option with the wide receiver. Put this on the left hash, by the way, so you got more grass over here to work with. It's just meant to be a home run play. Again, if you got a really dynamic wide receiver. Cross is okay. Curl flat's fine. These two routes are kind of useless. I suggest you ignore this play. I don't think you'll really need it. Halfback dive, excellent. PA seam is a pretty good one. The only downside to this one is it's pretty slow. It's a play action movement. It just takes a little while to develop. But what's great about this play is the cover zero beater by this tight end. Let's see if I can pull this off. I have to show it to you. It's just too good not to talk about. Against cover zero, if you can hit this guy who's wide open, you got to include it in your offense. You just have to. And for whatever reason, his defender gets caught up on the play action. You see that his defender right here, he just gets slow on it. And by then, it's just too little too late, and you're going to get an easy touchdown with this guy, as long as you got decent protection. I just wanted to point that out. It's got some other decent routes in it as well. I would probably treat this as an audible. If you ever see man and you just want to throw that in there, you may want to go to that audible and see if you get lucky and they call cover zero. Next up, PA flat choice. Guess what? This is the exact same play as the one we saw from the previous formation, except your Z receiver is still over here. So you can leave him over there, attack this with this corner against cover two zone, or if they got a bad strong safety, you can motion this go route over and do the same thing. Otherwise, it's the exact same play. We've talked about halfback draw. I suggest you include it. Again, it's not as good as dive, but it's still decent, especially under center. Halfback screen, I suggest you avoid any halfback screen that's under center. You don't have time to throw it. You're going to get sacked pretty much every time. Next up, tight end dump. This would be a decent play if it didn't have like a hitch or it's a glitch in the drop back. It almost goes like in a play action mode, and then it kind of drops back. The route combinations aren't very good. I suggest you ignore it. We've talked about toss, ignore it. And PA tight end screen. This is one of the few plays that I wish would work, and I can't even fix it myself, but it just really struggles to get open. The whole play is designed to get to your tight end, but the blocking's never good, even against zone. I've just always struggled with it, so I suggest you ignore it. And that is it for this formation. Next up, we got ace normal. This is a very popular formation in the game. It's very versatile. It's got a lot of cool things in it. It's got a lot of rare things in it. It's got your basic run concepts, but some of the pass plays are very unique compared to anything else in the game. So we're going to cover all that. And it's got all your basic sub packages, nothing too crazy. I do want to mention one particular one, and that is where you got a halfback flanker. If you got a really dynamic halfback, and maybe you don't have really good depth at wide receiver, you may want to put your number one halfback out here with that sub package. That's just something to think about. So let's go through all the plays. Halfback slam, excellent. PA rollout, really good. It's one of the better PA rollouts in the game. I suggest you definitely include this in your offense. This is a right hash play because, again, of this flat route. But notice we got a play action and a go route to the short side. What does that mean? Cover two zone beater. Excellent. But you also got this big old crossing route that can attack 2, 3, or 4 zone, which is pretty good. This play is not the best against man. I'll just be honest with you. Yes, you can hit a couple of players here, but it's really meant to attack zone, especially with the flat, the go, and the crosser. I would ignore this guy altogether. I would probably just put him on a blocking route, and I think you're going to be fine. Otherwise, it's a really good play, and I highly recommend it, and it complements the rest of your plays in the formation. Next up, we got a halfback draw. Excellent. You got to use it. Counter trap, I would ignore it. PA counter, it's up to you whether you want to use this or not. If you got the blocking, it's great. What's best about this play is you got a backside tight end that can block your backside. And if you got enough protection, you got 3 really good routes that complement each other. The problem is it's super slow. It just takes forever for your quarterback to get going. And if he's a left-handed quarterback and you play this play as is, it's going to be super slow and he'll probably get sacked. So you'll have to flip it and play this on the right hash. Again, if you got a lefty quarterback. With PA rollouts, you don't have to worry about such a thing. But otherwise, this is a left hash play as is, because you like to have that backside post that can attack any of those zone coverages. And of course, it can attack cover 0. I suggest you practice this play. I think it's worth at least practicing a little bit. Halfback read, ignore it because of that terrible blocking. Halfback dive, you got to include it, especially against the odd fronts. You're going up against a 3-4, 3-3-5. Throw in more dive than slam, and you're going to have pretty good results. Safety attack, it's a pretty good play. There's a better play in this formation that does the exact same thing, but just better. So technically, I think you can ignore this play. Wide receiver reverse, it's up to you if you want to use it. You can treat it as an audible. If you got an incredible wide receiver that just demands the ball, yes, I would probably run it only against man. I would treat it as an audible because it does not work well against zone, and you got to hope you get really good blocking. Otherwise, I wouldn't bother with it. Halfback screen, ignore it. Halfback tackle, it's not bad. Now, I don't have it on my call sheet because I wanted to keep it real concept-based, because halfback tackle is only like in 3 formations in the entire game. For whatever reason, they just didn't include it very often in some of these formations, and I don't know why. But otherwise, it's a solid play. So you can go and practice it some if you want a true stretch run play. PA strike, it's got another slower play action movement, but I love the switch concept. It's got a lot of big play potential. This could be another good audible for you, especially with this tight end against cover 0. He can get wide open. Otherwise, you got another backside post that can attack any zone coverage. And dig routes are always pretty solid against man. Halfback option, yes, you got to include it. Tight end streaks, this is the one I want to talk about in this formation. This is part of like my power shoot offense. If you've ever bought that book, it's in the shop. This is like the base play for this particular that particular offense. And I think this is the best short or actually full field play in the formation. You got 2 go routes by your tight ends. If you see cover 0, go to either one, preferably your number 1 tight end. But then you got an out route and a whip. Now you're probably asking yourself, where are my zone beaters? Well, this is where it gets real fun, and you can use motion to open up a zone beater. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and do random formation, and they're going zone. So what you do, you just motion this receiver over past the tight end, snap the ball, and then you just dump it to him, and you can get some really good yardage. And the reason why he got open is because you notice how many players on your team are occupying these defenders. Look how far back this safety is in that corner. He's got like 3 guys to defend. He's like, who am I going to defend? Well, you can always go to this little whip route, and even at times, this guy may get blocked, that guy may get blocked. You can actually get touchdowns off of such a simple play. Otherwise, against man, again, go routes over the top. If you need a little extra space with your out route, you can always bring him over like this, just like a little sidestep, and try to throw it to him as long as you get decent protection. But otherwise, this is just a really fun motion play, especially against zone, when you can do something like this and bounce it to this guy right here and get some really simple but effective yardage. All right, next up, we're going to look at, go on to the next one, speed option. This is true speed option, but what's good about this particular one is you got a tight end on either side that can block for you. You can flip the play, of course, but definitely include this in your offense if your quarterback's got enough speed to him. Next up, halfback pass. This is an interesting play. It works halfway decent against zone, and I got to show you why. This is the only thing I really want to show you on this one. You come over here, if you're going up against zone and you call it, you bring this guy over like we done with that previous play, and then you go over to here. He's wide open. You got to hit the X button again to bring up those icons, but the reason why he was open is because for whatever reason in the gaming and in the coding, this quarterback comes down. It doesn't matter if it's cover 3, 4. He just draws to the halfback, leaving the wide receiver open. So it's a great little zone beater. Now against man, what I suggest you do is just either run with the halfback, or if they go cover zero, if he's got a good enough arm, he probably doesn't because he's a halfback, you can always go to that corner. So it's an interesting little trick play, and it's not bad. Halfback toss, ignore it. Tight end crosses, I'm okay with this play. I wish I had a better short side zone beater. Like this crosser could be better if it was like a flat route. But otherwise, you got to have good tight ends in order to make this work. But you got a backside post, which is great against any zone, and you got a go route, which is nice. So that is that for ace normal. Next up, we have ace slot. Now we're getting to some 11 personnel formations. The previous formations, we were going through 2 tight end sets. Now we're going into 11 personnel. This is probably going to be your most common personnel set that you're going to be using in this particular playbook. So with ace slot, this is like your most basic one of the bunch. It's a 2x2 set, but you got 3 wide receivers, and it's 11 personnel because it's 1 running back and 1 tight end. It's got all your basic sub packages, nothing too crazy here, but definitely use them if it fits your roster. Now, when it comes to the plays, flanker middle, I'm not the biggest fan of it. It's okay. It would be better if this was like a swing route instead of a delay because it just sits there and waits until he gets open. Otherwise, I don't think you really need it for this offense, but it's not terrible as long as the blocking's halfway decent. Otherwise, it's a right hash play because you always want that switch concept on the strong side of the field. Sting is no different than slam, but slam is in this formation, so technically you don't need sting. Curl flats are good. They're not the easiest things to throw to, especially those curl routes, but I think they're pretty effective. So if you want something simple that attacks the short area of the field, definitely include curl flats in your offense. Slot seam, I'm not a fan of it. The spacing of the routes is okay, but the routes themselves are a little bit left to be desired, especially against zone. It's a decent man-beaten play, but I'm not the biggest fan of it, and I think you can ignore it. We got better plays to use that do the same thing. Counter trap, as we know, we can ignore that. Deep outs, this may be your number 1 deep ball play in the offense. Those 2 deep outs are killer against man, and this post route is the one who's going to get the most love. Against cover zero, you can go over the top, but it's really good against zone, any type of zone. But I'm going to go like against cover 2, which is fine. Now, this is a left hash play because you want that slot route on the left side. And 3rd and long, just kind of throw it over everybody's head. Just do a basic press of the button, and you can get a decent gain out of it. I've used this play so many times. This is like maybe the most popular under center deep ball play in the game. But otherwise, go to your out routes against man, especially this one on the right because he's got more grass to play with. But what's nice is this little stick route does a good job of distracting defenders, giving that post route open. But even this guy can get open. It just depends on what coverage they're calling. Like cover 4, you may see him get open. This is definitely a big part of your offense. You got to include it. Next up, PA rollout. Not much different than the one from ace normal, except a couple of routes switch. We got a crosser from the X receiver and a post from the slot. Otherwise, it works pretty much the same as what we saw before. You definitely need to add it to the offense. Slam, definitely. Halfback screen, don't bother. Next up, option strong. This is basic halfback option / toss, so you got to include it. Quick slants, I love this play. It's just a good West Coast / quick / short attack of a play, and it's good against anything, against man. But what's really good about this is it really gets this halfback wide open against man. But you got your zone beaters, you got a little slant over the middle and the hitch. But otherwise, this play is really meant to attack with that halfback against man. Option week, I'm pretty sure this is another speed option. Definitely include it if you got the quarterback that can handle it. PA halfback out, the route spacing is incredible. The route combination is incredible. The problem is it's a very slow play action movement. It takes forever for your quarterback to get out of it for him to make a play. And if you are a lefty quarterback and you call the play as is, you're probably going to get sacked every time. There are better play action plays in this playbook. I don't think you need this one. Halfback dive, yes, you got to have it. Seamers, I wish it would work better, but go routes beside each other just don't work well together. They don't know how to space each other out, so you're actually making it easier on the defense, so I wouldn't bother. Next up, toss strong, ignore it, as we all know. QB screen, the way I would call this one, and you see the CPU call this all the time if they have this formation in their playbook, is it's strictly the halfback and this go route. If it's cover zero man and you got time to throw it with the halfback, yes, throw it over the top. Otherwise, just run it with your halfback. Next up, halfback draw. And we talked about draw. It works just fine in this game under center. I would definitely include it. So that is it for ace slot. Next up, we have ace wide trips. This is the sister formation to ace slot. You're just moving your slot receiver over to the right. Its sub packages are pretty simple. Nothing too crazy here. You can always put extra tight ends out there. You want to keep that in mind. Like if you got 2 dynamic tight ends, but you got some really cool plays in this particular formation, you can always use the tight end slot sub package and you can get your number 1 tight end again out in the slot. So kind of keep that in mind. Otherwise, let's look at the plays. Starting off, quick post. I think this is awful. The route spacing is terrible, and these little quick posts are just not very good in the game. I would ignore it. Halfback dive, absolutely, got to keep it. PA deep post, I like the route spacing, the good routes in general that work pretty well in this game, but it's a very slow developing play action play. I think you can ignore it and be fine. Next up, cross in. I really want to mention this one. This is one of the few plays where you got a tight end on a drag route. Really good against zone. Otherwise, you got great man beaters with a go route over the top and a crosser and a dig. What we could do is rep this for a little bit. Come over here. This is a left hash play because you got to have that short side zone beater somewhere. And in this case, it's the tight end. Since you're going zone, you can just go over here and bounce it to him. It's just very simple, just giving him the ball. If they're going man like they're doing here, you got plenty of options as long as you get decent protection, which I didn't do there. But they're going man here, obviously. You see the safeties come down, which means they're going cover zero. So you can just go over the top as such and hope your impact receiver can make a play, and he did. Just a great play. But otherwise, this play is really meant for that tight end to get to that short side of the field. Halfback read, ignore it. Curl flat, this is the exact same play as the one from ace big tight end wide receiver, except you just got an extra receiver out there. Otherwise, definitely include this in your playbook. This is going to probably be your go-to short passing concept. Tight end corner, look, it's the exact same one from ace big tight end wide receiver, except if you remember, I wasn't a big fan of it, and I'm not a big fan of this one because a lot of these routes just don't work all that well together, so I don't feel like I ever really need it. Halfback sting, you actually want to include this in your offense because halfback slam, which is my favorite run concept in this playbook, is not in this formation. Halfback sting is as close as you can get to it. So if you really want to run halfback slam and you love this formation, halfback sting will be your go-to. PA boot right's an interesting one. I put it on my call sheet. I think it works pretty well. I actually treat this as a true boot play. Put this on the left hash and roll out, and you can really do some damage with this corner route against cover 2 zone, just sort of like we've done with PA tight end choice out of ace big twin. So definitely include that in your offense. Counter trap, ignore it. Flanker post, this will be your other probably go-to third and long play because you got just probably my favorite combination of routes to attack deep. You got a go and a post combo. I always call it ghost. But this is a killer combo, and of course, we talked about in ace slot deep outs. This post is killer over the middle against any zone coverage, good against cover zero. But this corner route with it just really attacks any safety and cornerback that's going to be back there. I love it to death. You need to include this. This is probably going to be your right hash third and long play, unless you just really want to throw deep all day. Then you can call this play more often. Halfback draw, of course, draw, you got to include it. Flanker quick screen, this looks really no different than the one out of ace big tight end wide receiver, except again, you're just playing at a different formation. Include it in your offense if you got the time to throw it. And I will mention this, we're going to call it, and they've got to call it on the right hash because of that screen. You want that on the short side of the field. You need to just drop back a little bit before you throw it to them. If you throw it too early, and I'm going to see if I can pull this off, if you do something like this, you're going to get a fumble. That's why you need to back up with your quarterback just enough before you throw it to him. Otherwise, you're going to throw it behind your quarterback. And you don't want this because here's what can happen. You can bump into a tight end and it's going to be a fumble, and that's the last thing we want to see. So keep that in mind when you're under center. Otherwise, this should be one of your go-to screenplays in this offense. Option strong, this is your halfback option play. They just gave it a different name. So treat it as your toss play. If you got a pocket passer, otherwise, if you got a decent quarterback that can run the ball a little bit, there's your basic option play that you're going to be using a lot. Slot wheel, It's not the best in the world. I'm not a fan of it. Some of the routes just don't work all that well in this game, so I would ignore it. Option week, this is another speed option. It doesn't say it, but it is speed option. So if you got a speedy quarterback, use it. Wide receiver reverse pass is terrible. It's one of the worst trick plays in the game. Just ignore it altogether. You can never get much out of it. I've never been able to. Halfback toss, you can definitely ignore that one as well. So that is it for ace wide trips. Next up, we have ace tight. This is our only compressed formation in this playbook. I wanted to include one, but I also wanted to include it because you can do some cool things with tight ends. Now, I mentioned tight ends, but you see 4 wide receivers out there. This is our first 10 personnel formation. We just covered 2 11 personnel formations. Now we're getting to the more spread stuff, but it is compressed. These are 4 wide receivers, and let's look at some sub packages. Nothing really crazy here except ace normal. This is where you get your top 2 tight ends on the field. So you've got some really dynamic tight ends. You definitely want to include this sub package in your offense. So let's go ahead and select that. I'm actually going to keep this sub package. Let's look at some of the plays. Curl across, I'm not a fan of it. I just don't think the routes combination and spacing is very good. Ignore counter. Halfback angle, this is going to be a pretty good one. This is going to be a right hash play because you want a short side zone beater with that flat route. Killer over the middle against zone with an angle, or you can hit the out. Against man, you got the go, you got the flag, you got the out, you got the angle, you got the out. All 5 of these routes work really well against man. Just a great full field concept that I highly suggest you call in this particular formation. We can go actually call this and we can rep it a few times. This is right hash play as is because of that short side zone beater. So they're going zone, either the angle or the out on the right. I don't see a hole over the middle, so we're going to go to the out route to the right. Pretty simple, just a 2-route concept there. Against man, read the safeties, go over the top. I see cover 0. You do not want to do this. Now, he caught it. We're going to get a touchdown, but it was double coverage. But anyway, cover 0, go over the top unless it's double team, which he is. Otherwise, just go to this guy right there. Just an incredible play, and you're going to see actually a better version of that here in a little bit. Halfback corner, I'm not the biggest fan of it. The routes are decent, but there's not enough zone beaters to really suit my fancy. I'm a big fan and component of having all of my pass plays have enough man and zone beaters in it, and this one just doesn't have it. Halfback dive, yes, you got to include it. PA dive is okay, but it's one of those slower ones. I actually recommend you just ignore it just because it's so slow. You don't have a lot of protection on the outside anyways. You're probably going to get sacked a lot. Under drags, it looks cool. I love mesh. I love the air raid, but these drag routes are kind of slow and they're kind of deep. They don't show it, but they kind of are, so I recommend you ignore it. Halfback option, definitely include it, as we all know. Wide receiver corners, it's not bad. The flag routes are kind of tough to throw to, but this is a right hash play because you want that short side zone beater, which is this drag. Otherwise, you may want to practice it and see if you like it or not. Next up, halfback seam. This play would be incredible if this little out route was a better out route. So if you're going to call this play, treat it no different than the angle play that we just looked at, but turn this into an out route and you can get a little bit more out of it. Otherwise, your short side zone beater is just a little hitch, and you got enough there to attack pretty much any area of the field. It's pretty good. Halfback sting, this is your halfback slam in this formation. I'm pretty sure slam is not in this one. Definitely include it. And then PA rollout, this will be your go-to play action concept in this formation. It's really no different than some of the other ones we looked at, like at ace normal, except it's a little bit more compressed. So what I suggest you do, this is a right hash play because, again, the short side zone beater with that tight end. I suggest you motion this go route over to the far side as close to the out of bounds as possible or to the sideline, and then treat it like you normally would with those other PA rollouts. Wide receiver clearouts, this is another really good one. It attacks all areas of the field. Full field is what I call it. You got 2 go routes over the top if you see cover 0. Otherwise, it's really meant to attack the short field. You got the out route on the strong side. This is a right hash play because of this short side zone beater. I actually recommend you do it this one with short side zone beater as opposed to this one because he's a little too far up. Otherwise, you got to dig over on this side. Just a killer play. This will probably be your go-to drop back pass play in this formation. Definitely include it. Halfback toss, ignore it. PA fake toss, it's okay. You can attempt, and we can go ahead and try this. This could be a cover 2 zone beater, possibly, as long as your blocking is there with this guy right here. Not bad. But against a man, it's a little bit left to be desired. This drag route is not the best in the world. It's a little deep, and I don't know, it's kind of slow. And I know I got tight ends out here, but it's just fine. Cover zero beater, that's cool with the go route. This flag route, the double step, is okay, but it's really good against cover two zone, as what you just saw me use right there. Next up, we have, if I can find it, yes, wide receiver cross. This is another scissors concept. You can attempt to use this against cover two zone. Otherwise, I think you can ignore it. I'm not the biggest fan of the combination of things. It's different. Give it a shot if you can. You know, your curl's a good man beater. This slant only works if it's a center beater, you know, against zone at your first read. Otherwise, this whole play is kind of designed around this crossing concept. QB draw. This is one of the few QB draws in this offense. QB draws are pretty cool in this game. If you got a quarterback that can run a little bit, I suggest you use it. You can flip it to go either side. It's very quick. But again, if you got a quarterback that can handle it, you need to include it. And I think I got it on my call sheet. Next up, we got wide receiver under. I wish this would work better if this drag route was a little shorter. But it's so deep. It doesn't look it, but it's really deep. And that's why I don't call it all that often. And that is it for ace tight. Next up, we have ace spread. This is a very popular formation in this game. I've used it so many times under so many different offenses, and I had to include it in this particular playbook. Now, it's got your basic sub packages, but it does have one that I really like. Actually, a couple. I want to mention this one first. Cornerback slot. Every now and then, you're going to have a cornerback that's super dynamic, that can really do some cool things. And if you're really low on wide receivers, but you got a pretty cool cornerback that's pretty talented, fast, or whatever, you can use this sub package to get him in there. I think they put him right here in the slot. The other one I wanted to mention is the tight end slot. Now, I mentioned earlier that the 11 personnel formations are going to be your go-tos. That's just like the most basic personnel grouping out there. But we only got 2 true 11 personnel formations in this playbook. But once we get into these spread sets, you can start using tight end slot and still stick with the 11 personnel if you choose to do so. And we can do that here. Let's look at some plays. Slot crosses, I really like this play. This reminds me of the old fun and gun days where you got the corner route and the post. Just a good combination of things. This drag route is really good as a short side zone beater. Crosser is good against man. The only downside is just a little curl route, but the halfback isn't very effective. Otherwise, I like the way it attacks the full field. It's definitely on my call sheet. Halfback slam, of course, we got to use it. Corners, this is like one of my favorite red zone play. I'm going to see if I can attempt this. Let's go up against like a cover zero. Let's see if I can try this. I'm going to go over here. This is really meant to attack man, but I like hitting these flag routes once I'm in the red zone. Something like this. Now he gets double teamed. Could have probably went to somebody else. Maybe let's go to this one on the left. And I'm going to get sacked. We can try it one more time. I hope I can pull this off. I'm going to get sacked every time just because I think I've probably called a bad one. Let me call a different cover zero really quickly. Let's call it again. Let's go against a cover, if I can find it. Let's do this double spy. This should work. So whenever you're like 15 to 20 yards in, if you can hit these flag routes, something like this, they're pretty fun to hit. I really enjoy that. Otherwise, if you don't feel comfortable with that, I always like hitting this little drag route against man. It's really meant to be a man-beating play, so kind of keep that in mind. Otherwise, it's a really cool red zone play, and I really enjoy calling it. Next up, PA dive. It's that one that looks similar to the one in like an ace tight. I'm not a fan of it. The routes are great. It's just a very slow developing play because of that play action. You're just going to take a chance on this one. And besides, you're spread out. You're not going to get a whole lot of protection anyways. So kind of keep that in mind. Halfback dive, of course, we got to keep it. Curl flats, this is one of the better ones in the game because it works off either hash. It's no different than the one at an ace slot, except now we got a halfback that actually does something. A great center beater. So when you got a great center beater, we can go up against like a cover 4. There should be a hole over the middle, and that could be your first read against zone as long as you don't get stuck on a right tackle. But either way, this is one of the better ways to attack the short side of the field. 10 yards in, excellent. All 5 of those routes work great, and they work off either hash because you got a mirrored concept on either side. Halfback option, we all know it. It's excellent. Safety draw, this has got the same flag routes. You can treat this as a Red zone play, if you want to try to hit those corner routes against man. The hitches are great against zone. It works off either hash. The problem is it's not all that great against man. So it's something to keep in mind. If it had a couple better man beaters, I would have called this play more often. You could probably ignore this play, but it's not terrible either. Halfback counter, ignore it. PA fake toss. Again, I'm not a big fan of the PA fake plays. I think they're slow developing. The route combinations are okay here. You got a scissors concept, so you can still do that little rollout against cover 2 zone. Otherwise, I don't call it very often. Halfback toss, ignore it. Cross is excellent. All 5 of these routes really attack the full area of the field. Go routes over the top. You got a little zone beater over the middle with the dig, and you got a swing route against zone. But against man, all 5 routes work incredible. You need to include this in your offense. Next up, quick slants. The only downside to this, it's not the best against man. If this was a flare route, if you remember back at ace slot, quick slants, that was a flare where he just runs as hard as he can. This one's a swing. If it was just better against man, I would call him more often, but it's not. Otherwise, it does a decent job against zone with this little slant over the middle. If he's not open, just go to the flat. Halfback draw, absolutely. Halfback clear out, I would ignore this one because there's a better version of this one here coming up. QB draw, it's like the only other QB draw in our playbook. If I'm not mistaken, there may be another one, but definitely include it. Triangle. Notice how triangle looks pretty close to clear out, except you got some different routes over here. Triangle is one of the more popular full field plays in the game. You got a cover 0 beater to your go route. If not, go to the out or to the whip or to the angle or to the flag. All 5 of those routes are incredible against man. Against zone, it's very simple. Either the angle or the whip. I love it to death. Really great play. I can call it every time and not have any problems with it. Counter option, I'm pretty sure that is a speed option play. We can go ahead and test that really quick. I think it is. Let's go ahead and snap it. Nope, it is basic halfback option. So still include it in your offense. The only problem is they already have halfback option in this formation. We've already seen it. So you didn't really need both. So they could have used that run slot for something else. Otherwise, a really great formation, and I love ace spread. A lot of good stuff in here. Next up, we have ace 4 wide receiver trips. This is the sister formation to ace spread, except it's a 3-by-1 look. You got your slot receiver on the left all the way over to the right. Sub packages, nothing too crazy. I think we know we got the tight end slot in there in case you got to get that tight end out there. You also have, yes, CB slot in case you got a cornerback that just needs to be out there. You have that. Let's look at some plays. All hook, it's not my favorite. Curls are fine. It doesn't do a very good job against zone. It's slow. If this was like a swing route or a flat instead of a delay, it would work a little bit better. Otherwise, I think you can ignore it. Halfback dive, of course, got to keep it. PA deep post, I love the routes. I just don't love the timing of the play action. It's very slow. You'll probably get sacked a lot, so you could probably ignore that one. There's a better play action play in this formation anyways. Curl read, I love it to death. It's got basic curl flat with a post. Notice that's very similar to the curl flat concept we saw at an ace big tight end wide receiver and ace wide trips, except now you got a whip route on the left that is really good against man. It's just a different one to throw. There's not many whip ends or zig ends like that route right there. So it's a very good play. This will probably be your go-to short/quick concept. Halfback counter, ignore it. Halfback angle, I'm not a fan of it. It doesn't do a very good job against zone. It does okay against man. And a lot of times, this is a left hash play. And the reason why it doesn't work all that great is 2 things. One, you got an out route that's so close to the sideline, it's going to be really hard to throw to, and you can't motion him. Also, your short side zone beater is just drag route that looks short, but it's not. He kind of goes 5 yards deep. I'm just not a big fan of it. Slot clear out. This is probably my favorite pass play in this formation. It's just got some weird route combinations that just work really well to attack the entire area of the field. You got a go route over the top against cover 0. You also got this post route. The only downside to this play is just post route. It's not the greatest in the world. You may want to turn that to a go, but you can hit this slant route, one of the few slant routes that works well in the game. You can also hit the out against man. Against zone, either the angle or the slant or the swing. So we can call this. Now, this is a left hash play because of our short side zone beater being the swing. Let's back up a little bit. We'll go like right here. So they're going man. All areas, I mean, all routes can really work here. Either the go or probably the out or the angle or the slant. Going cover one, I'm going to go to this slant route. He should have caught it, but he was open. They're going zone, go to the slant or the swing. Do I see a hole over the middle? I do not, so I'm going to go to the swing. And just pick up whatever few yards there. They're going zone again. I don't see a hole, so I'm just going to go to the swing. Just nice little two-read situation. Man, again, looks like they're going cover zero. You know what to do. You go over the top to your go route. Ooh, they're going cover one. And they're double teaming that out route that I went to. Either way, really good play. I like this how it attacks so many parts of the field, especially short. Halfback draw, got to have it in your offense. Really good. PA strike, really no different than the one out of ace normal, except you got a drag route this time. The problem is play action against these spread formations. You're probably going to get sacked a lot. I just hate to break it to you. You can try it. And this little switch or concept, especially the wheel, is killer against cover zero. Just prepare yourself to get sacked. Option week, I'm pretty sure this is a speed option play, so you need to include it in the offense. Again, if you got a quarterback that can handle it. Halfback out. This is a really good one. This is the under center version of gun four or gun trips. The only problem is his halfback gets kind of caught between the tackles and the guards a little bit. Sometimes he could just get stuck. Otherwise, a good zone beater to go into him or to your zig out to the left. Now, the best part about this play is notice my two impact players. My halfback on the out against zone and the zig out to my impact wide receiver. If you got an impact wide receiver or your two best skill players is your number one receiver and halfback, definitely use this in your playbook. It's just too good. Halfback option, it's excellent. Halfback screen, you ignore it because, again, it's under center. It's going to be really hard to make a play. Next up, we got halfback sting. This formation does not have halfback slam, so you got to treat this as your slam. And then PA rollout. This will be your number one play action play in this formation. Notice it's a deep cross. It's a go. Play action, cover two zone. You can hit that go in that little area right there. Or you can hit the backside post. Then you got a short side zone beater with this out that works good against man or zone. This corner route is not very good. This could be better if this play or this route was like maybe a crosser over here. And I think that's how I fixed it in my update. Either way, really good play if you can handle the protection. Again, you're in a spread set. It's hard to go play action from under center from a formation like this. Slot screen. This is your other, I think I got 3 screens listed on my call sheet. This is the third one. It's just like the one out of ace big tight end wide receiver and exactly like the one out of ace wide trips, except it's going to the slot screen this time. Either way, it's still the same concept. You still go to him. Just make sure you continue to back up just a little bit before you throw it to him. But at least you got a cover zero beater. If you think you got the time for it, you can go over to him. Now, one thing we can talk about this play, I'm going to go ahead and we'll go like against a cover zero. And I just want to mention this. We'll go over to the right hash because the screen needs to be on the right hash, on the right side. Notice my right tackle and my right guard are blocking for the screen, which is great. The problem is if they're going to go cover zero and you're going to go over to the go route, you need to roll to the left a little bit just to buy yourself some time. So we can do something like this and try to go over the top, and even then I just get sacked or get close to it. You may have to throw off your back foot like this. If you do not feel comfortable doing that and you think you're going to get sacked every time, just go to the screen. And I didn't hit the right button. But when in doubt, just go to the screen. Again, if you just don't feel comfortable making that throw over the top. Otherwise, yes, it's a pretty good screen, especially it's really meant to attack against zone on that short side. Halfback read, as we know, we can ignore it. Wide receiver corners, I'm not the biggest fan of it, other than you got a scissors concept. It would actually be better if it was these two guys. You can attack cover two better with that rollout. The swing is fine. I like the corner against cover one or even cover zero. But I'm not the biggest fan of, again, I just wish some of these routes were kind of switched a little bit. Otherwise, I think you can ignore it. I think you're going to be fine. And that is it for ace 4 wide receiver trips. Last but not least, our 9th and final formation, that is ace empty. This is the only ace formation that has your halfback out on the line of scrimmage. And this is one of the advantages of the ace offense in this playbook because you got so many guys on the line of scrimmage. It feels like you got a running head start. And this is really no different with ace empty with all 5 of your skill players at the line of scrimmage. Now, this is a 10 personnel formation. This is your halfback. By default, he is on the field. So then you got your 4 wide receivers. Now you look at some of the sub packages. This is where you're really going to move around a lot of your receivers. You can go 5 wide. Keep that in mind. If you got good 5 wide receivers, you want to put them out there. You can definitely get your 5th one out on the field without having to get a penalty, without using like formation subs. Tight end slot, you need to get your tight end out there. And I think the cornerback one is on there. It does have a wide receiver strong right and left. They just put your top 2 receivers on the same side. Same with the left one. And yes, cornerback slot. It puts him out in the slot right here. And you can do some damage with him, again, if he's good enough. Let's look at some of the plays. Slot hitches. This is a decent one against, if it's 3rd and long, if you just really love using that go post combination, you can do it. But this doesn't do a great job against man, I don't think. The zone is pretty decent. You got the post and the hitches. There's a better play in this formation I think you're going to like a little bit better. This is the lone run play. Well, I'll take this back. It's not the lone run play, but this is the one that's actually halfway decent, and it's QB draw. Again, the QB draws from under center work pretty well in this one, so I definitely want to include that. Slot corners, it's a mirrored concept, so you can work it off either hash, but it doesn't do the best job against man. I'm okay with it. I mean, again, if you want to treat these flag routes as good red zone situations, then you may want to include this one. Otherwise, I think you can ignore it. Cross seams, I like this one. I like the little hitch against zone. You got a couple go routes against cover 0. And this crosser is pretty decent over the middle against man, or that could be a good center beater against zone. And of course, you got a nice little backside dig. So all 5 of these routes can be useful, and I really like the play. Now, halfback option, I'm not a big fan of this one, only because you can't flip the run direction. You're forced to go left. So if that defensive line shifts over to the left, you're pretty much screwed. It's just not going to go well. Tunnel screens, I'm not a big fan of it. I just can never make it work. I just don't think the blocking is very good. Deep fade, this is probably going to be your go-to pass play in this formation. Let's go up against a random dime. Left hash, because you want your go post on the left side, and our short side zone beater is that little drag route. So against man, you got your go routes, the post over the middle, good against cover 2. That drag is good against man. That dig is good against man. All 5 of these routes are killer against man. But against zone, you pretty much just got the post and the drag. Now, I think they're going zone here, and they are. So what you can do is just go to your drag and pick up whatever yards you need. The only downside to this one is if you notice that drag route kind of goes deep. It's too deep for my liking. Look, he goes like 7 yards past the line of scrimmage. I wish he would kind of go like this. It would actually work a little bit better. But otherwise, zone, again, you can always try to hit this post or, again, that drag. Now it looks like they're going cover 0. They got double team on both outside guys, which means you can go to your post if you can get decent blocking, something like this, and that's just a great play by that defender. Otherwise, I think this is a great play. This may be one of your go-to 3rd and long, or if you just want to throw deep a lot, you'll definitely be using deep fade. Speed option, it's speed option. The problem is you can't flip it, so you're forced to go to the right side, and if you flip the entire play, the defense is going to flip their play as well, so you're not going to get an advantage from it. I don't like to call it. It's just too limited. Flat combo, guess what? Curl flat on either side, so you know what to do there, and you got a little center beater over the middle. So another good one, really no different than what we saw at an ace spread. Post flares, it's too deep. It's got a switch concept. It's a post with a wheel. It doesn't look like a wheel, but if you remember that one ace arrow at an ace big twins, that's that same route. It's a wheel route. Just the combination isn't very good. I can really make it work. It's decent against zone, kind of sort of with those posts. Okay against man. I don't know. I'm just not the biggest fan of it. Now, we've talked about bubble screens, halfback screens, especially from under center. They don't work very well under center because you just don't have time to throw. I would ignore that one. Wide receiver outs, a killer man-beating play. All 5 routes are great against man. The problem is it's just not very good against zone. So if you want to attack the zone, what you got to do is motion. This is a left hash play because this is your short side zone beater. You need to motion your halfback over and then snap the ball and just go to him. And again, these other routes just do not attack zone well. But against man, oh boy, Katie Bar the Door does a good job. Out attack. This is another little rollout concept because if you remember, out of ace big tight end wide receiver, out of ace big twins, you got the go corner concept where you can attack with this corner against cover 2. You also got a corner over here that's good against man. The flat is your short side zone beater, which means This is a left hash play. You got a deep dig, just a good route combination all around. It takes a while to develop. These routes are kind of slow. It's a two-step dig. If your protection is good enough, you can do some serious damage over the top. Twin slants, I'm not the biggest fan of it. I just don't think the routes are all that good. I usually ignore it. Safety to light is the same way. Yes, you got a little bit of a scissors concept. It's okay. This is one of the few plays in the game that's got a corner route from the slot position, which is interesting. But this is a short side zone beater, and unfortunately, this drag route just does not get over there in time. It would be better if this was like a flat route instead. I don't know. It's just the route combination isn't good enough for me to use. And that is it with, we got a few more left actually. Skinny post. You look at the skinny post. Again, we've talked about those. I'm not a big fan of them. The hitches are okay, but I just ignore that play altogether. I love halfback corner. This is a full field play. It's got a switch concept on the left, which means you want this on the strong side of the field. And guess where our short side zone beater is? Right there. So this is a right hash play. Zone beater, zone beater. You got a zone beater with the post. Then you got man beater with the post and the wheel and the drag. It's just a really good, unique combination of routes, and I really enjoy using it. Crosses is pretty good, but they need to flip a couple of routes. If this was the crosser and this was a drag, I think it would work better because you like to have that scissors concept on the right. That's why I don't use this play very often. And that is it for Ace Empty. I don't want to cover goal line. Goal line is, all these plays are in every single playbook in the game. Everybody's stuck with these same 18 plays. You can kind of do whatever you want to in it, but what I do want to mention is the best goal line formations in this playbook is actually ace big tight end wide receiver and ace big twin. So anytime you are about 6 yards and in from the goal line, let's just go up against like a 4-3, and I'll just go ahead and show you. If you are 6 yards and in, pretty much any formation in this game, the defense is going to call goal line against you, except for a handful of offensive formations like ace big tight end wide receiver. If you go ace big tight end wide receiver 6 yards and in, you're going to see their base defense, 4-3, 3-4, whatever. They may even go more spread than that. So keep that in mind. It's just a little bit easier to run against because they're just spread out a little bit more. If they're going goal line, it's just really hard. So if you're going to go goal line, if you're in that situation, which you're going to be because this is football, definitely treat ace big tight end wide receiver or ace big twins as your goal line set. And just do basic stuff with halfback slam, just kind of whatever your favorite run play is. Okay, we've talked about our playbook. We've went through all of the 9 ace formations. You got a pretty good idea of which plays I like. I got most of them on that call sheet. It gives you an idea of kind of where you want to go to and which place to skip and such. But lastly, I want to talk about is recruiting. Now, here we got a basic depth chart of Washington State. This is the team that we've been rolling with in this entire video. And the best part about this particular playbook is very flexible, because what did we talk about in our run game? We talked about basic run concepts, dive, slam, draw, but we got some option plays that work well as well. And if you got a speedy quarterback that can handle it, run more halfback option, run more speed option. But you don't have to. You can make this as West Coast pro style as you want, or you can make it as option heavy as you want. That's what's great about the offense. It's just very flexible. Now, what I do want to talk about is each position quickly and kind of what to expect here. Now, again, it's up to you what type of quarterback you want to go after. As you see here, they got nothing but pocket passers. They got nothing but little slower guys who can really throw the ball pretty well. If you want to go this route, you can. We've covered a ton of pass plays that are really good in this playbook. But if you want to run the ball more with your quarterback, there's nothing stopping you. You can definitely do that, again, because halfback option and speed option is in this playbook. Halfback, get the best one you can. I know that sounds very basic and not very detailed. It depends on how much you're going to throw to a halfback. Now, this kid right here, he's an impact halfback, 91 speed. He's got 65 catch, which is actually good enough for a halfback. But you can get as big as you want. You can get as fast as you want. Now, you don't have any fullbacks in this offense. So you may be thinking, do I need a bigger halfback to carry the load? Maybe you do. This guy right here is not very big, and I can dominate with this kid. I don't need him to be super strong. If you're fast or strong, I'm good with either way. So you can, again, be very flexible with what type of halfback you want to go after. Now, when it comes to fullbacks, the game requires you to have at least one fullback in this roster, because if you go to your coach options, you got to select what type of offense you want. That dictates which type of players or how many you have to have per position. So I suggest you go with the spread offensive type, which means you're forced to have just one fullback on your roster. If you're going to have one, you can either recruit walk-ons. Well, you don't even have to recruit those. You can even just put a walk-on there so you don't have to waste points on one. You can just ignore this position altogether, because as you saw in those formations, we don't even use fullbacks. Now, when it comes to wide receiver, get the best ones you can. I don't know what, I mean, yes, you can get the fastest. You may want to get taller ones. The biggest thing is, if you're going to throw the ball at all, you got to have some guys that can catch the ball. I mean, if you can find somebody who's got in the 80s and 90s on the catch, that's what you need. But if you're going to treat this offense as an option heavy, maybe you only need really big receivers who can just go over the top and, do jump ball situations. But if you're going to run that triple wide receiver option play, maybe you need a speedster for that. Again, it's very flexible. That's what's so great about this offense, is so many of these particular positions, you can just kind of get whatever you want, and you don't have to worry about, oh man, it's going to take me 2 or 3 years to get my system in place. You just kind of adjust accordingly and you're going to be fine. Tight end. Are you going to throw the ball to your tight ends? If so, get some fast dudes. Look at this guy, 92 overall, 76 speed. He's humongous. It's kind of a rare breed to have somebody that big that can move so well. And he can catch the boot. Again, if you're going to throw the ball to these tight ends, get a guy who can catch the ball, who can run a little bit. If you're not going to throw to your tight ends, if you want to just do more over-the-top stuff with your receivers, just get blocking tight ends. It's up to you. Again, notice the theme. A quarterback, halfback, tight end, wide receiver, it's all the same. You can adjust and you can apply any type of player you want for those positions. Now, when it comes to your offensive line, it's no different than most offenses in football. Get the best ones you can find. The biggest ones, especially strength is a big deal, and their size. You need really tall, really heavy dudes who can really push guys around, especially if you're going to run the ball a lot. If you're going to run the ball a lot, you need your offensive line to push consistently, especially at the guard position. Now, this guy right here is pretty small, 6'5", 279. I don't think I'd ever recruit him, but I would recruit this guy, 6'7", 320. That's humongous. That's exactly what I'm looking for if I'm going to run the ball at all in this offense. When it comes to center, it's kind of the same thing. I treat them no different than guards. And thankfully, since you're under center the entire time, one of the positives is you do not need a super smart center. And why I say that is because if you're in the shotgun a lot, you're going to get a lot of high snaps, especially if your center has got bad awareness. I'm quite positive that awareness is directly tied to how many high snaps you will have. But you're not going to have any high snaps in this offense because you're under center the entire time. Otherwise, I would just treat him as a big old offensive lineman that's just going to push somebody around again. So that's just something to keep in mind with your recruiting. It's just very flexible. That's why I like this offense so much. It's very adaptable with your personnel, with your recruiting, your positions, your players. It's incredible. I think you're going to have a lot of fun with this offense, and I hope this video serves you well. And don't forget, go down to the description below, look at the call sheet, download it, copy it, make it your own, and have a blast with the Ace Playbook. All right, guys, I'll talk to you later.